Hello everyone, and welcome to the random roller coaster review for May of 2024. This time, we will be reviewing Big Bear Mountain Coaster at Dollywood. So let's just jump right into this. Let's start off with some basic facts about the ride. Big Bear Mountain is a new generation multi-launch family coaster from Vekoma. The ride features a max height of 66 feet, a top speed of 48 miles per hour, a track length of 3,990 feet, and 3 launches. Now as for the queue, there is actually some pretty decent theming in it. You start by walking in by the Big Bear sign and into the queue near the first launch, before passing under the first element into the first of 2 tents. Inside each tent are many different props used for camping and observing wildlife, as well as many infographics about bears, and a lot of bear puns sprinkled in. This ride is very punny. It's almost unbearable. You then enter the station building, which is themed like a rustic lodge, where you see the train park. The train is themed like an expedition jeep, colored turquoise and tan. The restraints are interesting as they are a U-bar, but are very small and non-restrictive, and they don't staple very much, or at all actually. The seats have nice padding and are comfortable, and the trains have a pretty roomy design, despite them being more a family-based coaster. There are also onboard speakers that play onboard audio that plays a fun folk tune that adds a little bit of dynamics to the ride and adds a kind of more whippy sensation to the ride, I guess, because of the way that they have the different instruments timed in. It matches up very well with the way the ride is paced, and there is, again, more bear puns. Now let's get into the actual coaster portion of this review. The ride starts by the train being launched straight out of the station into a pretty punchy launch for a family coaster. The track then ascends while banking and turning 90 degrees to the right before unbanking and dipping down into the second launch with a bit of lip and a small pop of airtime. The train passes through the second launch, which again has a surprising kick to it. It then ascends and banks right in a small wave turn with another small pop of airtime and whip. The train then banks back left before ascending and whipping right through a twisted hill before going through a swooping right-hand turn. The twisted hill has a little more airtime and whip, and the turn pulls some pretty decent forces. The train banks left and ascends into a left-hand wave turn similar to the first before banking back and turning right slightly before ascending and whipping through another twisted hill. The train exits the twisted hill bank left in a swooping left-hand turn that hugs the hillside before passing through a small rock formation and some water. The train remains banked left and goes over a small airtime pop, delivering, of course, a nice pop of ejector airtime. The train banks even more sharply and enters an ascending 180-degree turn up the hill. The train traverses another twisted hill, this one much smaller, banking left to right before passing over the top of the rock formation. The track banks left, then back right while turning right in a small outer banked hill, delivering more whip and airtime. The train continues right while descending before another twisted hill that acts almost as a double down. The train turns 90 degrees to the left before going over another small twisted hill before unbanking into a regular bunny hop. Both of these deliver a small amount of airtime. The track banks and turns 90 degrees left before entering the third launch, which is, again, pretty punchy, and runs parallel alongside the second launch. The track ascends sharply, pulling some pretty good forces before banking right and then twisting left at the highest point in the ride, delivering good whip. The train dips down while turning, delivering some laterals and a small pop of airtime, before ascending slightly and traversing another twisted hill. The train, now banked right, enters a swooping right-hand turn, pulling some decent forces before ascending and whipping left into another wave turn that feels similar to the others. The track banks right and turns before whipping left and diving in a high-speed twisted hill. The train continues turning while descending, before beginning what starts as an airtime hill, but after the crest, the track banks and turns 180 degrees left while ascending. The track banks from left to right in another twisted hill before unbanking into a small double down, delivering a couple pops of airtime. At the end of the second hill of the double down, the track banks and turns 90 degrees before turning right and entering a 270 degree helix that is pretty forceful. The train exits the helix in an outer banked airtime hill to the left before diving down into a tunnel, continuing left before unbanking and pulling up into the brakes and one last airtime pop. Big Bear Mountain is actually a really fun family coaster. On paper, the ride doesn't sound like a great ride, with very repetitive maneuvers and not many forces, but when you actually ride it, it's pretty fun and quite whippy. The coaster has some great train interaction, as well as a fun soundtrack with some funny bear puns, although the hill that it's set on doesn't have very many trees, and you could say it's pretty barren. In my overall rankings, Big Bear Mountain ranked at number 39 out of 231, which is pretty good, especially for a family coaster. Overall, the ride is just a really fun time, and honestly, I hope that Penguin Trek is just as fun, because this would have been a great addition to SeaWorld Orlando. But that's all for now. I'll see you all next time on another adventure.